So I think I'm okay in visibility. So let us begin our practice and welcome to it. So for the practice today, you might like to have a bolster, and I'm very sorry if people do not have a bolster. There's no drama. Roll up a blanket or, a cushion that's a bit larger will do as well. So maybe a bolster or a lie, and potentially one block. If you have two, put one either side of your mat, no problem there either. So we've got a block, we've got a bolster, and I am now taking a blanket on top of that. The blanket is really unnecessary, but can be quite comforting. So I will place the blanket down just so I'm able to kneel on it. I will prop the block in front of me. Again, this is for comfort, unnecessary. And I will take a bolster in front of me as well. I will just have the end that's facing away from me on the block. And the only reason for that is so my head doesn't get too low here at the beginning of our practice. The blanket there is for knee cushioning. So none of that is essential. You could just practice on your mat if you wished. So to start, or our starting position, gently walking your hands forward, and that still applies even if you're not using any props. Starting to nestle in somehow between your legs. It's more a downward facing hero with the knees open, the big toes touching, and you can choose to rest the forehead down. I personally don't get enough fresh air in, so I will choose to turn my head and place it just simply on one ear onto the bolster. You can be like myself, quite low here with your bolster, or you could really snug it in and leave the head resting a little bit higher. As you try and find your position, and please do have quite a fair bit of movements within that position so that you can really settle in. If your knees aren't great with the child's pose, you could instead just lie down on the front of the body, take your bolster to the side, and you might snuggle one knee up as your alternative. That is also a one-sided position, so I will give you a cue once it is time to change sides. Right now, I would like you to get into Prana Mudra. I've just stepped up towards the camera to show you. You can turn the palms of your hands to face upward and then touch together the tips of your thumbs with those of your ring and the little finger. Palms then face up again. You can rest your forearms down. So it is to touch your tips of the thumbs with those of the ring and the pinky finger, leaving the other fingers, like when you go to a rock concert, standing out. So as you rest yourself down and hold Prana Mudra in your hands, settle into your position, close your eyes if that's comfortable for you, and acknowledge what is there for you today. That very first posture when we begin our practice is oftentimes still quite uncomfortable, as if you're stepping into a space. That space that is within you. And we would like to, with Prana Mudra's help, raise the energies today. Tapping back into the idea of spring, where everything starts to blossom and grow. The beautiful colors that shine. And Prana Mudra is in alignment with Prana Vayu. Vayu translated means wind, And it's one of the 5 winds or energies that move through our body. Prana also translates into life force, and as you might be aware, your breath as well. While you're holding Prana Mudra, we're creating an upward flowing energy, Prana Vayu, that moves kind of from the heart area up through the head. Also pointing towards the heart center rather, where your lungs are positioned. You might rest with your mudra now. Observe yourself and notice if any feelings or sensations arise or have arisen. Maybe noticing how the breath is directed upwards to the chest. Potentially cultivating an experience of uplifting energy that allows you to breathe more freely. Allow yourself some time in this pose and with this mudra to sense how your inhalation is lengthened naturally, serving as a vehicle for Prana Vayu, the upward moving current of vital energy. Since this uplifting current is the color of a light green meadow, visualizing your upper torso filling with nature's own vitality, nourishing your heart and lungs completely. Emphasize the breath into your chest and lungs. As you breathe in greater vitality, each area of your lungs is infused with life-giving energy. As you might maintain this subtle idea of prana mudra to lift the energies up, to open and free your lungs and breath. Allow for the next few breaths the expansion of your rib cage to be at the forefront of your observation or mind. We will return to this position towards the end of our practice or later. So there's no need to have changed sides right now. You might choose to release your mudra and wiggle your fingers. You might then turn the palms of your hands to touch the mat. Extend your arms so your torso and head are rising away from your support. You might actually place these items to the side. While the bolster can rest for some time, the block might still be useful by the side of your mat. Bringing your knees in underneath your hips now. I will leave the blanket there for a bit more cushioning underneath the knees. And then also placing your hands down, shoulder distance apart, and the fingers are spread out onto the mat. Just taking a notice how your stance is. Are you connecting down into the ground? Can you wiggle and shuffle same as you would over your feet as you find some movement here in the body? And allowing yourself to feel the different sensations depending on where you're leaning here. There could be sensations of, oh, that was necessary, to, oh, this is slightly uncomfortable. Enjoying all of those as you move a little. When you feel you've got to know your body in this moment, center yourself. We'll practice a few rounds of cat and cow. For this, soften your elbows as you inhale, raising the head, the tail. On the exhale, straighten your arms around the spine, chin to chest. Inhaling, elbows softening, tail and gaze are rising. Out breath, straighten your arms around the spine. And then stay with that. You might find a few little quirks for yourself, maybe flowing more in a circular manner through your spine. Keep your cat-cow movement flowing. You can be a little bit creative with it. You might allow yourself to squeeze once more, hips from side to side. And then slowly releasing your buttocks to your heels as you come into a seated position. Now you could use your bolster between the legs to sit. You could also use your block to sit on. There's no reason for you to sit on your heels either. So if that's uncomfortable, please sit with your legs out in front. Let your hands come to rest down upon your thighs and take a few shoulder wiggles, maybe light twists here too, to create ease across your back. Once you have, finding your center. If you enjoy Prana Mudra, you could touch your thumbs back to your ring and little finger and rest the backs of the hands into your lap. As long as your spine is tall, you're in a really good position. Everything else can just unfold as is right for you. So while you take your next inhalation, feel your belly extending outwards. And then sniff the breath out and pull the lower belly in. Breath in, the belly relaxes. Breath out, lower belly in, sniff the breath out. Inhale, belly relaxes. Preparation for Kapalabhati as you pull the lower belly in again rapidly. Let that part of the breath relax. There's the option of continuing like this. You breathe in, your belly relaxes, and you breathe out, pulling your belly in, sniffing the breath out. This sniffing of the breath out is the same for the complete Kapalabhati, where you can take that to quite a speed. The speed is not so important. As you encourage yourself to do this technique, if it doesn't feel right, please visualize and do deep abdominal breathing instead. I will demonstrate around how it goes with pace. So I'll start at the end of the exhalation. So you can go quite quick, you can keep it quite slow, and you can find your pace in the middle. Not right, deep abdominal breathing. Let's start together for a little while. Breathing in, fully out, and then start the technique. Deep breath in, slow breath out, and resting. Notice if this technique also assisted in raising your energies. You might then take a deep breath in and reach your arms up. Releasing maybe the mudra as you plant the right hand down and enter into a side bend. Raising both arms up with the breath in, letting the left arm come down and the side bend. We'll repeat that once more to each side as you stretch up, maybe even lifting your gaze. Right hand folds, side bend. Lifting both arms up, left hand folds, side bend. As you bring yourself back up, inhale. And on the out breath, releasing the arms for now. You might choose to remove the block or seated support. Place that back to the side of your mat and return onto your hands and knees. We will continue with the right leg extending out, keeping even strength in both of your arms, maybe extending out from the heel and reaching forward to the crown. With the exhale, bring the knee into the chest. On the inhale, extending back out through the heel and spine. On the exhale, tap your knee towards your elbow. On the inhale, extending the leg back. On the exhale, tap the knee to the opposite elbow. On the inhale, extending the leg back. On the out breath, bring the knee back towards your chest. Aim to land or help your foot forward. As we lean into a low lunge, allowing your hips to slightly lean forward, maintaining knee over ankle joint. And encouraging length through the spine as you might be on your fingertips. Your kneeling lunge. An option as you breathe in to turn towards your knee. Slide your arm behind and roll your shoulder back. As we turn into a kneeling twist. Option to raise the right arm. We will swing that arm back down. Lean the hips back a little. Hands might come to the thighs as you lift away from the ground. As you come a little bit higher, you may leave your hands resting here. You could also choose to tuck your back toes under, push into the floor, lift your knees off the ground, bend that very knee. And the last option here is to raise the arms up. You can always choose to practice Prana Mudra when your arms are lifted, opening your heart and arms. A breath in to reach the hands back up. And exhale as you might lower back to the ground, untuck the toes. Release the hands to the mat and then bring the knee back down to the ground. As you plant your hands back down, soften your elbows as you inhale, lifting tail and gaze. On the out breath, straighten your arms and round into the cat. Let that flow again with your breath for a little while. Tail gaze rising and spine rounding. And you might encourage yourself to keep feeling into the body and noticing if you need to move out one way or the other from that linear movement. And find yourself centered again at the end of your next out breath, neutral spine. Extending now the left leg back. You might like to flex the foot so you're pressing out to the heel and reaching forward to the crown. On the out breath, draw your knee into your chest, rounding your spine. Inhaling, extend out to the heel, reach forward to the crown. Out breath, bring your knee to your elbow. In breath, extend leg and spine. Out breath, knee to the opposite elbow. In breath, extending again. Out breath, draw the knee into your chest, helping or landing your foot forward. You might wiggle the foot into position so the knee and your ankle are aligned. The hips slightly forward. You might be on your fingertips and just lengthening through the spine in this kneeling lunge. To prepare for a twist, start to inhale. Roll your left shoulder back. Let the hand slide behind or into your lower back. As you twist, there's the option of lifting the left arm, extending it. Then swing your arm back and down. Place it again by the side of the foot. Lean a little back. You might bring your hands upon your thigh to lift your torso. As you find your stance in this low lunge, you could choose to tuck your toes under. Hands might be on your thigh for support, as you could choose to push the floor away, come to stand. And last option here, to lift the arms. Maybe Prana Mudra comes back, arms more like branches, open, chest and heart. Breath in, lifting the arms again. Breath out as you lower your hands, bringing your knee back to the mat. Releasing the hands back to the ground and bringing the knee back to your all-four stance. This time, let your hands slide a little forward and find a kneeling plank. You're encouraged to draw your tail towards your heels, even if you were to choose to do a full plank instead of kneeling plank. Be strong in your upper back and arms, and keep your elbows by your sides as you breathe out to lower down onto your tummy. You might rest your forehead down to the mat. Keep the hands nice and close underneath your shoulders. The elbows snug to your sides, the tops of the feet into the ground. With the next in-breath, lightly lifting your head and chest, encouraging the tops of the feet to the mat, leaving elbows close and shoulders down. On your next out breath, lower the forehead back down to the mat. You might take it a little bit deeper by lifting the head, the chest, and the hands. Again, encouraging the tops of the feet towards the floor. Out breath, release hands and forehead to the mat. We might repeat that lift of the upper body and hands. As you lift your head and chest and hands off the ground, you could choose to lift the straight right leg off the mat as well. Releasing the right leg down, holding upper body, lifting the left leg, pointing out through the toes. Lowering the left leg and an out breath to release the head, the hands, the chest. You can choose just to lift your upper body for a floating cobra as you raise the head and chest and the hands off the ground if available. And those of you that feel this way inclined may lift both legs off the ground, stretching down to the toes and floating your body almost just off the mat. On the out breath, releasing back down to the ground. Pushing the mat away as you carefully retreat your body towards a child's pose. In this child's pose, you might sit straight down towards the heels if that's available. Knees can be wide. And if a child's pose isn't yours, roll onto your back. Give the knees a little hug in. We'll have a similar position, especially if you choose to occasionally raise your nose towards your knees. Leaving your back around it. Encouraging a few deeper breaths towards your chest area and finding ways of expanding the chest despite the limitation of your knees towards the chest. Arms extending again to the front. As you inhale, lift your hips up. You might like to tuck your toes under. Option to raise the knees off the ground for a downward dog. I will temporarily remove my blanket and then walking the feet forward towards the front side of the mat, finding a gentle way to rise into a standing position. Giving the shoulders a few little shrugs and wiggles. I will be facing you here on the screen. However, I would love you to stand at the short front edge of the mat. Letting your arms be open and just rocking a little bit forward and backward over the feet. Maybe heels lifting and the balls of the feet and the toes might as well. Then as you come to stand, soften your knees and roll to the edges of the feet. So you're rocking over your feet from side to side. Looks a little bit like a weird folk music dance. We've got one in Germany where we hook ourselves up and then swing along. So I'm just imagining that as we release the arms, potentially rolling over the feet now in a circular motion. Your toes might be lifting, you lean towards the heels and the front, and then changing the direction there. And let us find a quite centered position on our feet. The shoulders back again, the palms forward, the knees a little bit soft as you come to stand. Steady your gaze out just at eye height in front of you or down to the floor without moving the head. We will bring the hands to touch to our hips. Lift the right heel and then step the right foot back, place it out to hip distance and land on the whole foot. The foot's in a deep angle, so the hips continue facing forward. And we'll bring a light bend into the front knee. As we stand here ready for Warrior One, draw your feet in a little towards each other to gain some inner strength. Options, Prana Mudra. And the arms might be lifting and opening. You could envision lifting your sternum and maybe your gaze if the neck allows you to. While we're wide open in the upper body, the feet are still drawing lightly towards each other so that we can create this very lift. With your next inhale, straighten your front leg, raise the arms up. You could choose to bring your arms right here into the side of the waist, or take them behind your back to hold on to your wrists, or slide the hands to the elbows or forearms, or place your hands into a reverse prayer. Mine is a bit crook, yours might be a bit happier. As we come here, take another breath and lift your heart again. While you lean forward, you may bend the knee a little to accommodate the movement. As you breathe out, leaning forward. Eventually, the leg might straighten again as you lean your nose towards the knee. With the positioning of your arms, squeeze your shoulder blades together, raising the elbows. Let your heart lead you towards the front knee in this pyramid shape, pressing down into the ball of the front foot. As you breathe in, bending your front knee now, lifting your spine forward. Leave your hands just as they are. And if it feels good, peel the back foot away from the ground. Maybe lifting the back foot off the mat and extending it for a warrior 3. Then point your toes, land the foot back into a lunge now. Bend your knee, release your arms, and maybe there's another Prana Mudra that you could lift up for a high lunge as you soften into the back knee. Gaze and chest might be lifted again. Inhale here. Keep your mudra and breathe out and turn towards the front knee. Arms might extend out at shoulder height now. A deep twist. You might lean your front hand down towards the thigh and lift the other arm to deepen yet a little bit more. Some of you might prefer to reach the hand down to the mat. We'll swing the upper arm down and step to the front of the mat in a standing forward bend. On your in-breath, use your hands against shins, half lift. Out breath, folding forward. Waiting for the next exhalation and starting to uncurl the spine into standing. As you might lift your arms to open them and lift your gaze. Bring the hands then down upon your hips. Settle into your stance again, steadying your gaze. Shifting weight lightly to the right foot. Begin to lift your left heel and then step the foot back and out to hip distance. Slowly landing the foot in that deep angle and placing a bend into the front knee. So your hips are still facing forward and you feel that in your hands. If they aren't, widen your stance a little. Squeezing your feet lightly in towards each other. And to complete your warrior, you might lift Prana Mudra in both of your hands. Opening the arms up as if they were branches. Lifting lightly from the sternum and maybe rolling your eye gaze up. Creating a little squeeze still between your feet. Virabhadrasana, 1 in variation. With your next in-breath, straighten your front leg, lift your arms. On the out-breath, release hands back to your waist. Behind your back to take a hold of the other wrist. Behind the back to take a hold of the forearms and change the one on top. Or behind your back as a reverse prayer position. You found your way. Take a breath in and lift your heart and gaze again. Maybe a light bend into the front knee to start leaning forward on this out breath. Please do straighten the leg again, micro bend in the knee if you can manage. Leaning forward, nose towards your knee. Pressing into the ball of the front foot to keep hips balanced. And squeezing the shoulder blades together behind your back so your heart is leading you into the shape. This beautiful light green color emanating from your heart. As you bring a bend into the front knee, lengthen your spine forward, leave your arms as they are. And if it feels right, start to peel your back foot off the floor, flex it, and extend the leg backwards for a warrior 3 variation. The hips are facing down, the toes are facing down. Pointing out your toes as you land the foot back into a lunge, bend your knees, and you might lift Prana Mudra up as you raise your arms again, and then settling into the lunge. Heart might be lifted here again, breathing in. An option to turn towards the knee, keeping arms out at shoulder height within this twist. Option from there to release the front hand to the front thigh. Maybe the other shoulder's back or the arm is lifted. Extra option, taking fingertips to the floor instead of your thigh. Swinging your arm down and releasing the hand to the mat. Bringing both knees down onto the ground. Taking an out breath to uncurl the spine, to stand upon those knees. Roll your shoulders back and shrug the hands into the lower back. Your fingers might be pointing down here for a camel. Squeezing the shoulder blades again. Buttocks are slightly squeezed. And then we begin to lift our heart space forward. This is perfect. If your neck is okay, you can move your chin forward and also guide your head back. Keep lifting from your heart though, reaching upwards, lightly supported by the squeeze in your bottom. Taking a couple more breaths if that's possible. And then very slowly bending your hips as you let your hips sink towards your heels. You might take your blanket back in, place that across your mat. Return to have your block in front, maybe the same setup that we had at the very beginning as we nestle back into child's pose or downward facing hero. You might lean over the bolster, but if your head was turned to one side, please now turn it to the other. Settle back into your shape. Turn the palms of your hands up. And if the mudra sits right with you, touching together your thumbs with your ring and little finger. As you allow yourself to settle in, similar to how you've done before when we began this practice, allowing yourself to just be in this shape. The mudra in your hands. Taking several deeper breaths into your chest area. Sensing the upward moving current of energy as it nourishes the front of your lungs completely, providing the vitality to meet life confidently. Expanding into the front of your lungs. Now bring your awareness to sense the current of vital energy infusing the back of your lungs. Releasing all tension from this area of your being. allowing you to live and breathe with greater lightness and ease. Next, sense the upward moving current of energy expanding your lungs horizontally, allowing you to embrace life completely in a natural balance of giving and receiving. Now take some time to sense all areas of your lungs integrated and breathing evenly. Fully vitalized by the upward moving current of energy. If you are leaning against an ear, centering your head, releasing the mudra, placing the palms of your hands down, starting to press into the ground or mat to raise your upper body and sliding your hands back. Now, I will ask you to turn around. If you don't have anything lying on your mat, maybe it's a thinly folded blanket that aligns underneath your spine. The only thing that I will change here is the blanket. I will fold it up a little bit more so I can sit there in front with less stress in the lower back. So turning your back towards your cushioning or bolster, you can have your feet stepped out in front and then slowly reclining, the spine aligning over your support, the head potentially a little bit higher using a block or some support underneath, and your arms open, letting your arms drape down towards the floor. You might allow your feet to stay on the ground. You might allow your legs to extend out long. If you do, you might gently point your toes to keep your legs together and engaged. You could alternatively also start with bent knees and let the knees fall out, soles of your feet touching. So please choose not the variation that you're most familiar with, but the variation that feels good for you at this point in time. And yes, you might return to Prana Mudra, holding your thumbs back to ring and little finger, extending the remaining two fingers out. You might experience that light squeeze across your back of the shoulders. You might feel a light stretch coming across the front of your rib cage, chest area. Both of these stimulating the area of heart center and your lungs. Allow yourself to emerge in these sensations of opening and squeezing the heart. Your arms, maybe with the mudra, allow you to think of the extension of this area energetically and to keep expanding the breath into the ribs. We will return to it. If you feel your energy is very low, you could instead stay right here. If you would like to practice some supported inversion, you might release your mudra, slide your hands underneath your bottom, squeeze your elbows into your side, alternatively rolling over to the side, as you might press the hands and forearms into the ground, lifting yourself up to sit. Now, I would love you to keep your bolster nearby if you have one, because it's much nicer to do it with a bolster. But if you don't, the block is just as good, as you might place that to the other side of the mat, thinking of your preferences. You can have a very light cushioning here at the back end of the mat. You could also slide that a little bit away and use a wall, as I've got here behind you. The wall, or maybe a couch, a surface that's a little bit elevated away from the ground, if you choose to go down this path. Now, if you choose to take legs over the head, which this implies, maybe your blanket is aligned, so your shoulders are on the blanket and the head is on the floor. So maybe lying down in that similar fashion here. As you lie down on your back, please bend your knees and then lift your hips up into the air. If you're using a block, you might place that at any height underneath your sacrum. If you're using a bolster, you might slide the bolster rather underneath your lower back, really snuggling it in. It could be quite comfortable, making sure that the head is on the ground, the shoulders supported here. This is in stages as usual, so don't be shy to play with it. You might lift your knees lightly towards your chest. Maybe the knees feel quite heavy towards the chest. Arms can rest anywhere where they feel comfortable, maybe hugging the bolster. If you feel this way inclined, you might start to extend your legs. The legs could at first be extended toward the ceiling, and feel free to move your feet here. If you choose to take it any further, please check in with your neck and shoulders first. Neck and shoulders should be reasonably healthy and well. It is okay to stay here. It is okay to let the legs be heavy and let them fall towards your face. And it is possible to take the feet against the wall, walk them down there, and with that get off the bolster and into a deep upper body stretch. So different variations using support or not. My upper body is actually relatively weight-free as long as I walk the feet down the wall, creating a deep extension in the back body, or at any time, could you lift away from the wall again and even bring your feet back up towards the ceiling. So allowing yourself to make your own choices, create your own movements, or even flow between the different stages on offer. It is really more or less depending on whether you do need a deep extension of your back or you're feeling better with the inversion part of this practice. And rather than analyzing it logically, go with what your heart wants you to do. As you find your center now, bend your knees lightly back into your chest. Let your feet fall towards your buttocks. And maybe experiencing a little bit of leveling out there. As you get heavier towards your support underneath, You can step your feet down with a little bit of core strength both at the same time, or using one foot after the other to step to the mat. Your choice now to hold this in a bridge or to extend both legs out long. Again, there is variations here, just one foot down and alternating, or not doing this at all and keeping your feet on the ground for the bridge. No matter your choice, there's the option of lifting your arms up over the head, and you might rest them down with a full extension or in a modified bridge. Letting yourself become long. One more breath. If your legs are out long, you might bend your knees first and step the feet back to the ground. You might then release our arms down by your sides. Now, if you have been using a bolster, this will be extremely easy. It won't be too hard with the block underneath either. So as you ground your feet into the mat, squeeze your bottom back up for the bridge. You've got a block underneath, pull it out and roll to the ground. You've got a bolster underneath, use your hands and shove the bolster down to underneath the knees. You could then just slot the lower body into Shavasana, pull a blanket up underneath the head as a cushion, and let your arms fall away to rest. However, if you now notice, oh, my lower back isn't quite where I need it to be, you can also step your feet down and have a little movement here, or give your knees a last squeeze to the chest. In any case, finding Shavasana or your relaxation pose now. Whether that is lying flat on the back or with your knees bent is also up to you. As you come to rest here, I suggest to return to Prana Mudra, which was to touch the tips of your thumbs to those of the ring and little fingers, leaving a peace symbol out to rest on the floor, the backs of the hands touching the ground on either side of you. As you settle in, feeling back into your hands, the sensations that arise. The extension from your heart center towards your hands and Prana Mudra. And returning back to the breath that flows in your lungs. Breathing evenly, front, back, and sides. Fully vitalized by an upward moving current of energy. Your breath flowing freely, experience this light green current nourishing your heart softly and gently, supporting it and functioning smoothly and rhythmically. Sense this current of vitality nourishing your thymus gland behind your upper sternum, enhancing circulation to this area of your being, supporting your immune system in functioning optimally. With your entire upper torso bathed in light green energy, allow the upward moving current to permeate your thoughts and feelings, enhancing your level of enthusiasm and optimism and vitality. Nourished with uplifting energy, you naturally live more vibrantly, appreciating each moment of life as a precious gift to be embraced completely. Nourished by the upward current of energy, I live with enthusiasm and vitality. With your energies being lifted and vitalized, change the color that you might have in your mind, as it could be that light green. With your body so open in its energy, you might be ready to experience peace and calm. For that, you might like to visualize the color aqua. Focusing on the inner stillness that the shape of Shavasana or relaxation pose provides you with. And imagining beautiful rays of aqua light moving through your whole nervous system, calming, purifying, and creating a sense of peace. As if this color, it could wash you from the inside and outside. Water flowing, cleansing, purifying, calming flow of water. You might invite the healing aqua light to calm your nerves and to allow to experience a sense of peace and tranquility. The aqua providing you with the flow, the calm and peace and easy. While from your lungs comes the light green, vitalizing, to keep moving and flowing. You might even experience these two colors merging or playing in harmony with each other. And you might even choose to take these colors with you into your day, and with that, the attitudes cultivated around them. Being calm and peaceful, allowing life's current to flow, and acting from heart center, letting your breath assist you to watch over yourself with loving kindness and vital energy. So you begin to deepen your breath, expand your lungs again in all directions. Feeling the flow expand your ribs. You might release the mudra from your hands, wiggle your fingers. You might even get to stretch and move a little bit more. And when you're ready, coming to join me in a seated position. Maybe you would like to bring the hands together at heart center. To complete our practice, we will chant 3 times the sound yum. Yum is for the heart, followed by one longer sound of Om, the universal sound. So it's 3 short yums and then 1 long Om. Let's take a breath to begin. Yum. 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 Ah. Every Om has a silence to follow as you drop into this silence, stillness, calm and peace. We'll take a little bow to extend our love and care to each other. Namaste.